All righty.
So welcome. First, I'm Roger Rippy, and this is Albina Rippy.
We're married.
Yeah, and we are really excited to host this online teacher training. This is actually going to be our second 200 hours online, although we have been teaching online a lot, and we've been teaching teacher training since 2008. So we've been leading it, teacher trainings in person since 2008. And we're sort of right in the middle of a 200-hour training with a whole other group that we're going to finish before this one starts. And so we have a lot of experience training teachers because we owned 7 yoga studios, 7 yoga studios in Houston, Texas, for 10 years, called Yoga One. And Yoga One started with 1 studio and we grew to 7. And so we trained hundreds of teachers over those years. We've been practicing since 2000. We both started around the same time. In fact, one of our first dates was a yoga class together. So for those of you who do Bikram yoga, our first class that we did together was a Bikram yoga class. And then when we opened our studio in 2008, we needed to train teachers in order to have enough teachers to fill up the schedule. So over time, we evolved that yoga teacher training from sort of the basics of yoga that the Yoga Alliance requires to something that's become this very transformational, life-changing, I would call it human training. So yoga is the vehicle through which we get to grow. And so we use yoga and the practices of yoga and the 8 limbs of yoga as really a training for us as humans to get access to where we can evolve, where we can grow, where we can step up into a new level of our capacity. And I'll let you ask questions about that later, but a big piece of ours that sort of differentiates some teacher trainings from our teacher training is that ours is focused on personal growth and transformation. We believe that the yoga was always about that. It was always about changing your patterns up. And if you look up at the yoga philosophy, it says that yoga is about changing the patterns, your habitual patterns of your mind. And so we use this training to kind of identify what patterns are we working from, and then are those patterns the patterns that we want to keep, because some of them are very healthy, and then we identify like, okay, so what are some of the patterns that we're ready to change? And first thing is seeing them. So even right on your yoga mat, a yoga pose is a perfect opportunity to study yourself, right? Yeah, there's a part about where to put your body, right? Where to put your hand, where to put your foot, where to draw in, where to relax. And then even more interesting over time is, and how I'm practicing one of those patterns, and where can I start to play on the yoga mat as an experiment into changing those patterns in a way that doesn't feel risky but feels empowering. Like, oh, I noticed that I grip, in my neck. I wonder why I do that. Oh, because I'm afraid of falling over, and so, oh, I wonder where else I can support myself by pressing down through my feet, and how could I approach this pose a little differently? And then that kind of is a good metaphor for things that are going on outside the mat. Our teachers always said that the yoga really starts when you roll up your yoga mat to leave the yoga studio and go into your life, because that's where the stakes start to get a little higher, right? So on the yoga mat, it's like kind of an opportunity to play and experiment, and it's good for you and it's fun. And then off the yoga mat, that's where the real yoga starts, right? That's what we say is like the yoga of your life is what we're also interested in this yoga teacher training, right? Got anything to add to that?
I do. What I want to share with you guys from our personal experience, and I know that a lot of you, actually most of you, are probably seeing us for the first time. So Roger and I met, one of our very first dates, like you said, was a yoga class. And I'm happy to say that because of yoga, I am a better human being. I'm a better wife. It definitely helped us, grow our marriage and strengthen our marriage. I'm a better parent. I'm a better daughter and a sister and a business leader, honestly. So we believe that yoga has that tremendous power to help you like create the life of your dreams, honestly, to create the life that you're yearning for. And I mean, you know, I know Christine here, I know Jordan here, and you guys know that, you know, we only teach and we only share things that we have tried in our own lives. So it's not like we read something in the book and then we teach it. We only share with you what we have tried in our own lives, and with all those tools and practices that had like a huge transformational effect on our lives. And in addition to what Roger said, that, you know, our teacher training is focused on personal growth and transformation, what I also want to add is that, you know, one of our strengths is business of yoga, because we had, you know, 7 yoga studios. We had a juice bar, and now we're actually right now in Taos, New Mexico, where we have a yoga and meditation retreat center. So what we'll share with you is that business aspect of yoga, and also like how to bring your offerings online, which I think in this day and age is really a valuable, you know, knowledge to have, and a valuable skill to have.
I just want to add one thing, and that is that part of the process of becoming a yoga teacher, or even taking yoga teacher training, whether you ever really want to become a yoga teacher or not, we used to assume that everybody wanted to, and a lot of people really want to do it just for their own personal growth and development. It's not so much about teaching yoga. And really the process is you have an inner revolution. And then you integrate that inner revolution, that change, that powerful impact that the yoga has on you. And then the path of the teacher is to go share it out in your life, wherever that is, right? Whether that's with your kids, your family, your friends, at work, or maybe in a yoga classroom or online. But really, that is this whole idea behind yoga, is that you get some tools that have an impact on you, that start an inner revolution, and then you go share it. So it's this sort of idea of moving from me to we, you know, because that's how you get to keep this growth. That's how you get to keep the transformation, is that you share it. And when you share it, it's like you remember, right? You remember, and it grows in you by sharing it. So when we share it to you, it's because this thing, it helps us keep it. When we share it to our students, it helps us keep that transformation. And that's the path. It's like a feedback loop.
It's like a law of circulation, right? The universal law: the more you give, the more blessings you get to receive. So yoga is definitely a big part of that.
And just in anticipation of a few of your questions, and then we'll open it up for questions. The structure of it is online, of course, via Zoom largely. And we have, it's 200 hours. And the 200 hours comes from the Yoga Alliance minimum to be Yoga Alliance approved teacher training. And it's meant to be a foundational beginning teacher training. And so we have 200 hours, and then the Yoga Alliance has certain categories of things that we must teach. And then there's some things that we get to add what we want to add in there. So there's, you know, certain amount of practice on your mat, right? And we'll practice yoga every day, physical yoga practice, and some little meditation every day. And then there's practice and feedback. So you will teach yoga a little bit every day. So you get the practice in you. There's yoga philosophy. There's yoga anatomy. There's a whole lot around, well, yeah, we're going to work on the breathing techniques, pranayama. And then there's a whole lot of work around alignment and proper alignment in the poses from our perspective, right? Because there's different schools of thought, but from our school of thought that our teachers taught us. And then there's this part that we get to add, and that's sort of the part that has made what our teachers taught us plus what we've learned, you know? So there's this sort of unbroken lineage of yoga that's being passed down from our teachers and their teachers. And then there's this part where we get to add in what we know, and that's how it becomes sort of uniquely something that we can offer. And that's a part of that, a big part of that's the personal growth work, exercises and practice. There's we believe that inner inquiry is a big part of the work of yoga. So we do some of that too. So part of the time you're practicing yoga, part of the time we're sitting and talking, part of the time you're practice teaching with each other, which we can do in Zoom. And then part of the time you're doing some introspection and reflection and maybe some journaling. And so there's all of this work happening within this 200-hour training. And so we'll be delivering it, a lot of it via Zoom, and then some of it, will be archived videos that we have put online from our former teacher training stuff that we had recorded. So things like you get to go and do some homework and look at some of the alignment for some of the poses.
Hands-on assist.
You get to go and look at some of the hands-on assist work. And then you can come back after you do that homework on your own. And then we talk about it, you ask questions, and then we move forward with the program. So that a big part of it is us in person, just like this. And then another part of it will be what you study online. And then one little piece of it will be, or one piece of it is there's some recommended reading. And you pick among some of these recommended readings, one that interests you, and you read about it, you read it, and then you write something about it. So one aspect of it.
It's a book report.
It's like a book report, but it's really, I'm not so interested. Book report is a little bit like, that's a misnomer, because book report is, this is what it says in the book. Well,
we read the book.
We already know what it says in the book, but we want to know what you think about what it says in the book and how it applies to your life and whether you learn something valuable, and if so, what. That's way more interesting to us than, you know,
summary.
This book is this. We're like, yeah, we know that. But every once in a while that happens, so I wanted to clarify. Anything else that we would add about this training before we open it up?
Yeah, you know, guys, like Roger said, we started one group of trainees. It's 30 of us. We started on April 11th, and by the time we're finished with this first group, you guys are going to start the next group. And it's been really magical. You know, one of the things that we weren't so sure about, we're like, oh, we've never done anything online, you know, because most of the trainings that we've done, we've always been in person. And, you know, since this training is 100% on Zoom, I'm happy to report that the connections that we're creating are really magical. You know, we're laughing together, we're crying together, we're supporting each other, we're growing together, and it's been really, really beautiful. And we always say this, you know, we always say, oh, this is going to be the best yoga teacher training ever, the best so far. And it always is, because like we're growing as we lead different groups through the training. And also I know that everybody who comes to our teacher trainings, they come for a reason. Mm-hmm. Right. And I don't believe in coincidence. It's all, to me, it's all divinely guided. So this is why we have these Q&A sessions. This is why you all have my phone number, because I want to make sure that, you know, you in your soul, in your heart, feel like, you know, you like us, you want to be with us. I mean, 4 long weekends together is a lot of time together. You know, it's important for us, for you to feel like you're drawn to this particular training. So this is why we open up for a Q&A and make ourselves available so you can ask any questions that you might have.
I would add one more thing to that, and that is, this is a very short period of time that online training is recognized by the Yoga Alliance, in recognition of the fact that we can't really meet in person right now. It would be very challenging. So that's through June 30th. So the idea is that we could do all of the work through the end of June. You may have some homework that trails that, but the part that we would be doing together, and that depends on your own pace, right? You could be done at the end of June totally. And some of you will have other things that'll be like, oh, I need to stretch that homework a little longer. But we were super pleasantly surprised how powerful this online training that is currently ongoing has been, which was pretty magical. And then the second part is that you're going to get the benefit of everything that we've learned, you know, and how to make that even more effective, because we just got through doing it. And I think the last piece is the mystery piece that Albina alluded to is you. You know, your energy is super important. The trainees' energy is super important to how we create the teacher training. It's not just us. it's all of us, right? It's all of us, because each person brings their own energy, brings their own curiosity, brings their own enthusiasm, passion, all those things. So we're also counting on you as the potential trainees to bring your whole heart and everything into it, so that it makes it amazing for you and it makes it amazing for everyone else. And so, I mean, we do ask a lot. In a way, we ask for you to bring your whole self, you know, and so far everyone has, and it's been really amazing. And so that's another piece, is like, am I able to bring, now granted, there might be dogs and babies and in-laws and all that. That's okay. That's the beauty of this. It's like, it's okay. And we would invite you to like really try to carve out a space that, you know, for the most part, you could have a baby in your lap, or you could have your kids running in and out, but they also know that you're doing something important, because whatever juice you get, like I said, that's really juice for everybody in your life. You come out of this feeling like, I really did something for myself, everybody, that's going to spill over into everybody in your life. And I found so far that generally people are, you know, in our lives are pretty amenable to that. They will try to give you the space, because they want you to go and do the things that light you up, that help you, because ultimately, whether they know it or not, consciously or subconsciously, it's also improving them. Right? Like, when you get better, the people around you get better, you know. All right, well, we talked a lot.
Yeah.
And this is a Q&A, so you get to do the Q part, and maybe we'll have an answer. So should we just open it up?
Yeah, so you guys can unmute yourself or raise your hand, and I'm happy to unmute you to ask any questions. Okay, I see Carrie.
Hi, I just had a quick question about the queuing. As I know we're going to be doing everything online, I guess, do you feel like online you're able to help somebody in queue, and as us trying to learn how to queue somebody, that we'll be able to do that pretty well? Or
Yes. So we've developed lots of different techniques on how we do it. So one of the things that we do is it's called call and response. So I'll say, Carrie, they're like, Carrie, repeat after me. Inhale, reach your arms up, and then you say, inhale, reach your arms up. Yeah, forward fold. You know, and you say exhale and forward fold. So we do that over and over again. Then we break you out into groups of 2 usually, and then you get to practice it with another buddy, and you take turns. Then we also incorporate our online platform called Mat to Mat. So during the week, you're going to be watching some videos, practicing to them, and also listening for the cues. We have a manual, and also, like, we usually open up a Facebook group, and then you would you know, record yourself on video, practice teaching, and then during the week we give you feedback.
Okay.
And that's how, I mean, it's a lot of repetition. And through repetition, right, repetition is the mother of skill. Through repetition, it gets to you, because you're learning on multiple levels. Like, physically you're learning because you're moving through the practice, right? On the body level, you're in your cellular, kind of like a cellular memory, you know, muscle memory, you're learning. Also a lot of repetitions. Then you'll see it, you'll hear it, you'll read it. So we approach it from many different angles. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, and we have the capacity to give you real-time feedback too. So when you're broken out into the groups,
we
can come into those little meeting rooms, because there's like a breakout rooms thing. So like, you could be teaching to Jordan, and then we can come in and go louder, or we could say, okay, try it this way, and we do that too. So, and that's exactly how we would do it in person too. You would be all around the room teaching to each other, and we would walk around and say, okay, try it this way, or
sparkle up.
Yeah, or what did you mean by that? You know, and like, what about this? And we definitely have a bunch of tools around how to give effective cues. And so we have like a whole, not only a philosophy, but also a whole bunch of techniques around creating useful, impactful cues.
Yeah.
When you teach.
What I also want to add also, Carrie, is that when we had 7 yoga studios, we had 150 yoga teachers. And I'd say 99% of all of them have been trained by us. And, you know, every teacher training is used to be around 50 people, and we had 3 rounds every year. So you just do the math. We've done it so many times over a decade that it's almost like it's definitely an art, but it's also a science, right? If you follow the formula, the science part, you'll get there. And also there is art part to it too, because you bring your own unique personality into the training, and it's both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that
Perfect.
answer your question?
Yes, yeah, for sure. I was just worried about the online thing, how well we were going to be able to do that, but that makes sense.
Surprisingly well is what we're finding.
Really well, yeah. And maybe like, if I do say so myself, maybe we're like getting better and better than as trainers. I don't know. It's both, right? It's co-creation. It's both.
Well, and
the trainees are really awesome, and they're very like disciplined about doing their homework. And I think we're also growing and evolving as we go as well as trainers.
Yeah. And I would say a big portion, one thing that was, like unique maybe about our studios is that just because you graduated from teacher training, your training wasn't over. I mean, we would still go to your classes and give you feedback, and like, it was kind of like forever. So teachers were kind of used to that. Like we were still giving feedback, even if they'd been 3, 4, 5, 10 years out of training. It's kind of like, that was amazing. And, here's what you did well, and here's some things that you could work on, So that's what we do. We start it's first, it's kind of like, just repeat after me, because you don't even, some people won't even, it'll be like starting at step 1. And then we move on. And then we kind of like layer on more tools and more things, right? As you're ready for them.
Perfect. Yeah. Sounds good.
Any other questions, guys? Ladies? It's all ladies today. Love it.
Yes, I have questions.
Okay, go Chuck.
So how would you, first of all, I'd like to know a little bit more. Sandra?
Yeah, sorry.
So I'd like to know a little bit more about the content, and how would be like a full day, like the 8 to 6, how would it be in terms of the curriculum?
Yeah.
Can you just give me an idea, like how much it would be practice, how much would be studying and all that? Can you expand on that?
It's good. It's a good question. This is often the question. One of the things that goes on in the training is that there is a general sort of, this is when we begin, this is kind of the structure of the day, and you won't have like, this is what's going to be happening like every minute of the day, because we sort of start with an outline for the day, and then depending on what happens, it changes. Because
it can change.
It can change, because we like to create a structure. This is what we're going to cover today. And then we like to give enough space, because you're different every time, right? And we don't want to try to ram this stuff down your throat when, it's clear that we ought to give more emphasis to this thing today. And so we give a little space for that. But I'll tell you generally the structure. We start in the morning, generally with like a meditation, not too terribly long, or something like a meditation. Then we do a little journaling. Then we do a little sharing with each other in the group. Then we talk. Then we have some Q&A. Then we cover a topic, and it might be whatever topic we're going to cover today. We're all sitting like this. As we
call it a circle. Although online it's not necessarily a circle, but it's still like an energetic circle. Yes. Yeah.
So it starts like that, and then we go into practice, and we usually have practice right before lunch. So we come out like however long that, usually somewhere between 60 and 90-minute practice, depending on the day. Then
and are we practicing together?
Yes, we're practicing together, just like this.
Yeah. So okay.
Yeah, so we have a nice juicy practice, and then at the end of the practice is a lunch break. Usually the lunch break is an hour, unless we have something going on. We might make it a little longer, but generally it's 60 minutes. Which gives you time, if you want, you can wash up, you can eat, you can do whatever you need to do, whatever, hang out with your family, scold your kids, hug your kids, whatever that looks like, right? Let your dog out. And then when we come back, we usually, because we just ate, we usually come back and we're sitting like this again. And so now we'll cover a topic like philosophy, we'll talk about a particular aspect of the training. There might be more Q&A.
Alignment.
Then after you've had time to digest, when we do some practice teaching, this is not a good time right now. Take that and come back in about 5 minutes.
My phone is in my room.
Come back.
You see, this is what.
This could happen. Or ours. So, and then we may do some like practice teaching, work on alignment, things like that, because after you've digested, then now you can move a little bit more. So, and then we'll talk about, like I said, some philosophy, some personal growth. That's my daughter, Mia. And then at the end of that time, we'll wrap up at the circle at the end of the day. So that's kind of what it looks like every day. We haven't done that yet, but we might have a second class at the end of the day. We used to always have a second class at the end of the day. And we may or may not have a second class at the end of the day during this training. But we're for sure going to have one good, solid, like physical practice. And then we might say, okay, teach this part of the practice. So you might end up doing a different part of the practice. And then the overall content is, we're going to teach you a sequence, just so that we'll all have one thing that we can all understand that we're doing together. And we're going to talk about how to create your own sequence, but we're going to be teaching from a sequence called Journey into Power. And it comes from Baptiste Yoga. I think it's 52 poses. It's a vinyasa practice. So if you come from like a Bikram background, it's different, because those are like, you do the pose and then you kind of stop, right? And then you do the pose and you kind of stop. Well, this is continuous movement. And so we will move through the poses, and you'll learn this sequence and how to teach it. And the end, there's two main reasons for that. One is because if we're all teaching from the same thing, then it gives us a measuring stick for us to kind of know where we're at with it, right? So we can see like, oh, I'm getting this. This is starting to come together for me. And then we can talk about it together. It's like a book club. And then the book club is this Journey into Power sequence, right? We're all talking about the same book. She's not talking about War and Peace, and I'm talking about Brave New World. That would be confusing, right? Especially in this. So the book that we're doing, or really the sequence, which there is a book actually with the same name, Journey into Power, Baron Baptiste. It's a Baptiste yoga sequence. And then the other side of that is a practical one. And that is, we want you at the end of this training, if you wanted to be able to walk into a yoga studio and have an audition or whatever that looks like, and teach a powerful practice that's accessible to most people, that can be modified for most people, and that could feel powerful. So you could walk in and say, yeah, this is what I teach. And then they say, okay, show us. And now you walk in because you know it, and you're like, boom. And then they're like, wow, that was really great. So a sequence that would be powerful for people, that could be impactful right away. And then over time, as you continue to teach, you put in the tools that we'll teach you about sequencing, changing it, modifying it, creating something completely different. But we want you to walk out with at least one thing that you know how to teach pretty well, that you could feel confident walking into a space, whether it's online or whether it's in the park or whether it's with your family or whether it's the yoga studio. So that's sort of a practical aspect. We want you to be able to teach something really well. And we think having a sequence that we're all working from helps with that. So that's sort of the structure of that. And then the philosophy part comes from the 8 limbs of yoga, which is from the Yoga Sutras. And then we'll talk about what that really means in this modern world. It's a really old text. And we'll talk about why would we even care about that in 2020? And we think it's still pretty applicable and useful. So we'll talk about that too. And then there'll be some personal growth stuff that comes from all of our different trainings, and only the stuff that really worked for us, that was the most impactful.
And just the content, do we have to buy books? Because I already have a lot of those books.
Yeah, so once
I don't know.
Go ahead.
If you guys have suggestions for books.
We do. So once you register, we'll send you the list of required reading and also a list of suggested reading. So like he mentioned, you'll a part of the 200-hour registered yoga teacher, right, at 200-hour level. So Yoga Alliance has very specific requirements. Certain number of those hours is us like this, right, live training, and certain hours will be your homework, which is your self-study. So you'll need to prepare 5 written book reports, and you can choose from required reading or recommended reading. And like you said earlier, it's not a summary of the book, but rather like what did you think about the book, what you liked about the book, what you didn't like.
So in short, the required reading is very short list.
Yes.
And then the recommended reading is a longer list. It's like stuff to pick and choose from, stuff that we like and we have found impactful. And then we'll honestly help you understand what we're talking about, and we'll inform the training, right? Because we may refer to something from a book, or we may say, this comes from that book. Whether you read some of those recommended books or not, you have the rest of your life. But some titles might appeal to you more than others, right? So we want to give you some space to play with that in the recommended stuff. And the required things, pretty short, really. It's only maybe 5 maximum books,
and
which you may already have.
You don't need to read them in advance. In other words, you don't have to read them like now. We just say the only requirement is you being willing and eager and desiring to come to the training. That's
Show up wholeheartedly.
Yeah, that's the only requirement.
That's the only prerequisite.
Does it answer your question, Sandra?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Jordan, did you have a question?
And then maybe Chelsea had one too.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Jordan.
Hey guys, I miss you. I wish I was in Taos this past week. I was supposed to be there, and I'm like dying that I wasn't there. But this feels really exciting to me. Yeah. So I'm also balancing a lot of scheduling things kind of at the moment, which are actually having more free time than usual, but still trying to kind of figure out what the next like 2-3 months of my life and our life looks like. So I was wondering if you could kind of walk us through, like, I thought I heard Roger say like a long weekend, kind of like time frame wise, like, is it Friday, Saturday, Sunday? And I apologize if I missed this in the reading, but, all right. And then kind of like the time frame between kind of the last class and the next class and the homework load to go along with it.
Yeah. So for this teacher training, we'll do Friday nights. I think we said 5:30. He's looking it up right now. I don't remember.
Okay.
5:30 Mountain Time, which means 6:30 your time.
Okay.
So Friday night, I think 3 hours under online. And then 8 to 6 Mountain Time, which will be 9 to 7 Central Time, Saturday and Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Perfect. And then some level of homework between.
Yeah, most of the time the level of homework would be like practice yoga minimum of 3 times a week. And those are the class recordings that we provide for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll give you like, watch this video on mat to mat. And those are usually like maximum 90-minute recordings.
Okay. Okay.
Very good. Those times
5 to 9.
But those times are Mountain Time, right?
Yeah, so that will be Friday night 6 till 10 Central Time, and 9 to 7 Central Time on Saturdays and Sundays.
That's right.
Awesome. Thank you. That really helps me out. And I miss you guys, and I love you guys. And
I love you too.
For anybody that doesn't know the Rippys that's on this call, I got to be in their studios for probably about 2 years, and I've been out to Taos, and it's amazing, and just love the whole thing. So,
well, and you also came to our retreats.
Yes, and it's beautiful out there.
Yeah.
It's seriously a gorgeous place to go, and it made such a dramatic difference in my life, just being part of your studios in Houston and visiting your retreat center too. So for anybody that doesn't know them personally, they're wonderful people. So yeah, miss you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Chelsea, you're up.
So I just have a question. Like, at the end of this, is there a test we have to take, or is like any sort of exam? Like, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah. Answer is no, there's not a test. The test is your real life when you go back to it, right? You know, like, and then really it is about that. It's about what can you take from this to walk in your life in a way that feels that you can be powerful and kind and loving, even when things get challenging. You know, that's really what yoga is about. And so can I use these tools to give me, you know, access to calm, access to
Joy.
a bit, you know, a bigger, better, higher version of myself. And it's not really a self-improvement class. It's more about self-acceptance. You know, that's what I think yoga is mostly about, is like, you're already amazing. And it's good to remember that, you know, as you walk through your life. And so there's no test at all.
Okay.
But we do expect you to do the work. So every once in a while, somebody starts to try to like say, well, what if I don't show up for this? And then could I just do that? And could I, and starts to want to trade out stuff. And generally, you know, it's participation grade, but it's 100% participation. And that's really what we're asking of people, because, you know, for the people who do that, which is the majority, 99% of everybody, it's not fair for them to do like 100%. And somebody else who comes in and did 70% to get the same certificate. So we are pretty particular about doing the work, in the sense of you show up on time, you show up the whole time, you know, that's really the test, right? Can you commit 100% to this? And so if there is a test, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That helps.
Yeah.
And you know, Chelsea, Nick, the owner of Earthview Yoga, and Roger go way back with Baptiste community and
Rusty Wells.
And also what I do is you know, yoga business coaching too. So we've been working with Nick and Leanne a lot. So I'm so happy to hear that you're coming from that community. Thank you. Welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. That community is great. Like, it's been a blessing in my life. So I'm thankful for it there. So
we've been there. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so pretty. Yeah, it's a great space, great people, just all of it. Yeah, it's awesome.
If you're ever in Madison, Wisconsin, Earthview Yoga, that's where you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chelsea.
Thank you.
Nikki, do you have any questions? How did you hear about the training?
So I actually used to go to Yoga One in Houston as well.
Yay.
And I got an email from you, and I've always wanted to do one of the teacher trainings, but usually they would be like during the week, or I worked, and you know, I couldn't justify taking 2 weeks off of work to do this. But this weekend thing is really a great option, and so that's kind of why I'm here. One of the questions I do have though is, so I've done yoga on and off for years, but like my skill level is still pretty basic. Is that okay? Is that an issue? Kind of, you know, where do I need to be in my practice for this to really be beneficial?
Yeah.
Nikki, we always say yoga is for everybody and everybody. You know, we welcome everybody. So imagine if everybody was like super, you know, like, I can do one arm handstand in the middle of the room, then it won't be reflective of the reality, right? So in reality, when you show up to teach a yoga class, there'll be people from all walks of life, all body shapes, all ages.
All skill levels. So we want every level to be in the training, from absolute beginner to advanced. Yeah, so like we said earlier, the only requirement is your love and passion for yoga, you know, and your desire to be there. You don't have to like do whatever. We have no other requirements, and certainly no physical requirements. Yeah, because you know, part of the practice here is to learn yoga and learn about your body and learn about what it can do, what it's capable of. And that's what we say, is focus on what it can do. You know, don't worry so much about what it can't yet do. You can put it out there like, yeah, one of these days, you know, it's going to do that. But we all have those limitations, you know, and so
opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, opportunities, let's say, for growth. But like, I tend to focus myself on what I can do, because that's so much more interesting to me than like whatever I can't do yet. Like there are certain things I can't do, right? And you know, if you spend enough time in yoga, there's always going to be stuff that, you know, that you have access to, and things that maybe you don't have access to yet. So for you, like, and there's always this question always comes up every training, and I have yet to meet anybody who wasn't like perfect where they were at right there with their practice that came to the training. And we've had every skill level, every body type, every, you know, and this often for a lot of people is their chance to recommit to their yoga practice. They're like, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing it. You know, it's because like I get to get on the mat and I get to say, this is what I'm doing, you know? And so there's an opportunity there possibly too. And if you have been to our studios, you know that like our teachers are not like cookie cutter, like they don't look all the same. They don't all have the same haircut. They don't all look like they all come from the yoga journal cover, you know. Some of them do, but most of them, like they're representative of every kind of body and every kind of person, and they all are powerful.
And it has always been a part of our intention. You know, we mindfully, since you know Yoga One, we always mindfully and intentionally created a community like that, welcoming everybody.
Yeah.
And I hope you got a feel for that with Yoga One. Yeah. Hi, Joanne. Did it answer your question, Nikki?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
And there's Fanny.
Yeah. Joanne, Sandra was at Travel Tulum earlier this year in January. She's on the call.
By the way, Sandra, Barry JM right there, that's who sent you that email. She's the owner of Travel Tulum in Tulum, Mexico, and a good friend of ours. So if you're ever in Tulum, the place to practice is Tribal Tulum.
Yes.
It's good to know all the places in the world that you need to practice. And we've practiced with her ourselves. So, and remember when we went out to that really beautiful
cenote?
Climbed
the fence?
Well, we climbed a fence and we went into some like lake, right? And then out on that dock, she led us through a yoga class on a dock. And it was really amazing. So any other questions? Oh, we got a question.
Yes, I have one more question. So can you tell me which school the certificate is going to be registered under? Because you mentioned about all these studios and you have, but now you have.
Yeah. So the school is listed with the Yoga Alliance. And I think it's Rippy Yoga. I think it's Rippy Yoga School. And if you're in Texas, pretty much everybody knows us. I mean, like, we know people in Dallas, Austin, Houston. You graduated.
I'm like shocked, and I have never found you guys, and I just found you, and I'm so happy about it. So
like, we also, if you want to teach at a studio, just ring us up, because we know a lot of yoga studio owners all over.
Yes.
And we would be happy, you know, once you're
to recommend you.
Yeah, so we've done that a lot too, because what happens a lot is people take our teacher training, and I'm not saying you should do this, but a lot of people do. They're like, I'm moving to California, or like, I'm moving to Denver. And then they're like, where can I teach? I'm like, oh, we know people. We know Denver yoga studios owners.
We know people in Denver and California.
Yeah, we usually say, because this teacher training is sort of transformational and revolutionary, and you get all psyched, like, don't make any big decisions right after teacher training. Let it just kind of settle down a little bit. Because a lot of times they're like, I'm moving to Colorado and I'm going to be a yoga teacher forever. You know, and like, how about you wait, see if that's a good idea in 3 months from now. And then sometimes they still do. So
cool.
I am divorcing my husband, quitting my job, and moving to Denver.
Yeah, we're like, nobody said do that. No. Stay where you are for now and love what you're doing, and then see, right?
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. Do you guys have any other questions, comments? So let me talk a little bit about the logistical part. So our early bird discount ends on May 15th. And because we're collaborating with lots of our friends all over the country.
World.
Oh, actually, well, yeah,
North America, anyway.
North America, largely due to the time zones, because we don't want people doing the teacher training in the middle of the night. So this training most likely is going to fill up really quickly. So we will only open up 30 spots for this training. So if you guys are seriously considering, I encourage you to sign up as soon as possible. If you decide that, oh, I meant to ask this and you forgot, you all have my phone number. It's listed on the website. So you can text me or call me. I'm happy to answer any of your additional questions. Like I said, I want you all to feel 100% like on board with it, you know. Anything else?
No, we just love doing this, and we get as excited as you are. And what often happens, this is my test for whether I'm moving in the right direction. I'm a little bit scared and I'm a little bit excited. If I have both of those, I know I'm going in the right direction. If I'm not scared at all, then I'm not growing. And if I'm not excited, then why am I doing it? You know, so it's kind of like, that is the Venn diagram sort of, that's when I know I'm doing something really good for myself, is that I'm a little bit scared and a little bit excited, or a lot excited. But it is that combination. So if you're feeling that, like, ooh, a little bit, I don't know, that's normal. And I would say that's good, right?
If I may add, I call it a state of positive anticipation, expecting a miracle.
Yeah.
The state of positive anticipation, and also at the same time expecting a miracle. When you expect a miracle always shows up. All right.
I keep thinking of that meme that I saw about coronavirus, like what I learned from the coronavirus. It's like how much I touch my
muted. Hi, sorry, we lost our connection for a sec
Wow,
here.
that was crazy. I guess I shouldn't have talked negatively about the coronavirus.
Right.
Anybody else? Is that it? You happy with the answers that you got?
Well,
okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really great to see your beautiful faces. When this coronavirus is over, please come visit us in Taos. It's really beautiful here. Or go visit Joanne in Tulum, or go to Madison, Wisconsin. And what did we do in Madison? Eat apples.
Oh yeah, we ate a bunch of apples.
We went on the RV for
festival.
6 months all across North America, and Madison was one of our stops.
Yeah. Also, if what else was I going to say? There's one other thing. Oh, if you do the teacher training, we hope to have a reunion here at some point where all the online people come up to Taos if they can.
We'll hug it up.
When we can hug again. And then we'll all hug and we'll practice together in our yoga yurt here in Taos, New Mexico. And we would obviously love to see you IRL in real life. And it'll be a super impactful training, and we would love to have you. So thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to unmute everybody so you can say bye.
Thank you, guys. Nice meeting you.
Yes, nice to meet you all.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Stay healthy. Bye.
You too. Wash